Astra Travelers, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Tefat, a Genshin Lore podcast. Last time, we remembered our final chapters in Nodcry as we reviewed Nodcry's chapters 7 and 8. This week, we're returning to Natlan, where we're going to be saying, "What up, bro?" to Saurian Dr. Aoife.
Are you feeling like an easy, breezy, beautiful cover cowboy? Well, yeehaw, tip your hat, grab them tiny little bird legs, and float on over to our website. That's talesoftevat.com, where Bro Tiff has created a page with visuals for this episode and all of the rest of them too, bro.
While you're there, check out our past episodes and season archives. Along with the lore bits, each page includes some artist spotlights for the topic that we're talking about and some other goodies.
Finally, feel free to email us at talesoftefatpod@gmail.com to let us know what you thought of this week's episode and what topics you'd like to see in the future. Additionally, you can tell Albedo all about how much you love us or hate us. He has been a gentle soul since his return from Nodcry.
Oh.
He has only shown me the nicest of letters.
Oh my, character growth.
I know. He used to show me everything because he thought that transparency was probably good for me, and I said no. Lie to me.
Lie to me, please.
Yes, please. That's what I need right now in my life, Albedo. Travelers can also feel free to give us a rating wherever you listen to podcasts, where Albedo will have no control over whether or not we see it. And you can check out our Ko-fi, where you can buy us a cup of coffee, or check out our merch store. All proceeds go to making sure this podcast is up and running and able to help Saurians. JK, we don't help any Saurians. But if you find a GoFundMe for one, let us know.
I mean, we would if we could.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could donate to Aoife's animal hospital, I would.
I mean, I feel like we've helped, little guy.
Yeah. Wait, have you guys ever thought about not-for-profits in Teyvat? Who are you, donating monthly to for the tax write-off?
I would imagine that Aoife's vet clinic probably fits into that.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Arataki gang has, a not-for-profit for, their jail funds?
Definitely. It's actually just a GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm imagining, the Church of Favonius has one.
They're passing around the basket.
Oh my god, it's Barbara with the basket. People are just dropping in, empty bottles of alcohol. I'm like,
Yeah.
I do not take wine.
Uh-huh.
And in Nodcry, it's literally just God, please help us all. We are trying to rebuild.
Mhm.
They're yeah, that's why we can't give you our money. So,
Well, they do have a not-for-profit, though. The Frostmoon Scions give out those meals to people who need them over in Asha Town.
Oh, yeah.
so are we donating to a cult? Are they a tax write-off?
I would imagine they're giving out free food, even to bitchy people, because they would feed anybody as long as you want a meal. They're going to give you it. And then even if you complain about that it's not good, they'll still give you a meal.
And then there's a fine print, all proceeds go to paying for Llama's bustiers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know though. I got questions about if I'm donating to some of these places. I'm not donating to a cult. I just can't. It feels very Manson of me, and unlike most people's opinions, I can't get behind that.
I mean, I think they've been leaving their cultness behind because they're no longer blindly paying homage to, paying to Columbina. They're like, okay, we don't need to make her the center of everything.
Sounds like the marketing person for a cult right now.
Eh.
Trying to make me feel better about joining.
That's just PR for their cult.
PR for the cult. Tiff worked for the Mansons now.
If I worked for the Frostman Scions, all the ads would just be llamas' titties.
Not birds?
I mean, they would be there too, but it would be boobs and be like, look, what more do you need?
If I was the PR person for the Scions, all of our greeting cards would just be pictures of the giant Columbina statue with items on them. For St. Patrick's Day, she'd have little clovers on her cheek. And for Easter, she'd have little ears.
Everyone's like, what's St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah. What
and Alice is like, let me tell you all about it.
Yeah.
And we will stop this tangent in a second. But do you guys know, I found out the real facts behind St. Patrick this week.
Okay.
I was not aware.
Did he drink green beer?
No.
That he got all the snakes out of Ireland?
Yes. So the mythical lore is that St. Patrick used a stick to get all of the snakes out of Ireland.
That's very Zhongli.
It is, until you realize that the temperament of Ireland doesn't allow snakes to begin with. So there were never snakes in Ireland.
I mean, there's not any.
And we celebrate a fraud.
Huh.
Apparently, there are 0 snakes in Ireland. That's what I've been told. If you are from Ireland, please let us know if you've seen a snake before. In Ireland,
Wow,
though,
that's
not like in a
interesting.
zoo. Are there zoos in Ireland? I'm assuming there's a zoo in Ireland, right?
I assume
Yeah.
there's a zoo everywhere.
Ireland seems like so small to me because like we're so used to like the States and everything.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, yeah, of course, in the United States, there's a zoo.
It's pretty small. I've been to Dublin once. It felt like a college town here,
Oh, I've
Hmm.
heard that. Yeah.
but it was lovely. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time, but
You have Irish roots, B?
I have Scottish/Irish roots. I don't know for sure. Like before my mom passed, she always thought we were Irish, but then after she died, my aunt was like, I didn't ever tell your mom because I didn't want it to like hurt her feelings because she already had this own lore about herself that she developed. But we're not actually Irish, we're Scottish. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh my God.
Grew up my whole life being told I was Irish, but
I
apparently I'm
love
Scottish.
that. I love that your aunt was like, I don't want to hurt her feelings.
Yeah.
So we'll just pretend.
I feel like you need to do like an ancestry test and like prove it.
It was very onto. Like my mom was very onto about it, which we'll get into later.
Well, St. Patrick and Colts and tax breaks aside, today we're here to talk all about Aoife.
Mhm.
Aoife, who is known for being the probably chillest, most relaxed, not everyone has a purpose in their life person in all of Tavat. He is very go with the flow. He is from the Flower Feather clan, and he is currently a vet for Saurians, though he did not always want to be that way.
He didn't want to be that way. He didn't want to give himself to the Saurians.
No, he was like, he had some trauma, guys. Like,
But like, yeah, because was like, I don't want to follow my family. I want to do my own thing. And then he was like, oh shit, maybe this makes sense. I'll just
Yeah.
do this.
And his dad was mean.
He would throw a broom at him if he didn't study enough.
I know he was just like his father would force him to study medicine, and anytime he got something wrong, he just how did he phrase it? Out would come the broom.
Out
And
would
like,
come
what did
the
he do
broom.
with the
Yeah.
broom? Like, was he like smacking you around with the broom?
Yeah.
Or what was did he just make you sweep?
Yeah.
I had to clean the house. Yeah.
manual labor for your errors.
Yeah.
I had a friend in high school who had to plant trees in their backyard after getting drunk underage. That was their, they were hungover while doing it too, and their parents were so proud.
Planting trees. That's hilarious.
They had like just gotten like a new backyard like landscape thing. They're like, you will plant our trees.
Like you mentioned, Defoe's from the Flower Feather clan, which makes him like a cowboy looking person. And I don't know exactly, like, to me, every time I look at the Flower Feather clan, I imagine that they're kind of like Southwest, like kind of vibing kind of
Mhm.
people. Like, I feel like they're the ones that are playing country. He's like throws around a little gun and he's just like, you know, here I am. I'm like a little Southern guy. But I imagine that's just me comparing it to the States. But I assume that,
Right.
you know, they're not actually based off of here. But it just has a very like, you know, that kind of vibe for me.
Yeah, it's giving very like from an American perspective, especially as someone who grew up in Oklahoma, it gives like a native cowboy
Mm-hmm.
or like a Latin cowboy.
I will say, like, Natlan has mixed backgrounds that they use to
Mhm.
create it. We know that every tribe is supposed to be different, but when looking into like his constellation and his name and stuff, his constellation is Katina Opil. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it translates into Opil chain. And so I was like, I have no idea what that is. So when I looked up what an Opil is, it's a divination chain.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't it African?
Yes, it's African and Afro-American religions,
Mhm.
but notably it's used in the Ifa tradition, which I was like, oh. And so then I had to like look up what Ifa was,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a geomantic system, which again I was like, what is that? because I did not study religion in college or high school. And it's like a specific type of divination technique that uses like pattern analysis and like markings on the ground to understand energies. It kind of made me think of like Sedona in Arizona for some reason because I've been there and like those like they're always like the energy vortexes in Sedona. But I thought that was interesting that like it's a divination chain. It's all about like using the earth to understand like the energies and the powers that be around you, which seems to have nothing to do with Aoife until you get into more of like his like morals and his ethics and like kind of like his standards for life, which we'll talk about a little later. I do think he does come from this more like grounded version of like trying to help the people around him. I think especially we see that with Auroran and Kukuku.
Yeah, his name is also has a West African roots too with that. Like Aoife is actually a name.
Yeah, it's interesting how much they remixed the influences within Natlan of like different areas. Because yeah, like when I look at him, I see like gaucho is kind of what it reminds me of. That was the word I was trying to think of, where it's like a South American cowboy basically, or like at least parts of his outfit and stuff. But then yeah, when I saw that like they're using like African stuff like within his name and constellation, I was like, oh, interesting. Like there's probably little pieces of this that I don't know much about culturally.
Yeah. And him and Chaska are from the same place for travelers. They're both Flower Feather Clan members. So that's why they both kind of got cowboy motifs.
Just a little reminder too, since it's been a little bit since we've been in Natlan, there's actually 6 major tribes that are in Natlan. Like you said, Chaska and Aoife are part of Flower Feather Clan. There's also the Children of the Echoes, which is Jalonin and Kachina. Scions of the Canopy, which is Kanicha Morika. People of the Springs, which is Mualani. And then Masters of the Night Wind is Slitlali and Auroran. And Collective of the Plenty is Iansan and Varessa. Just as a little reminder of our Natlan folks.
I wonder why Mualani doesn't have a little 4-star counterpart.
Because she's an independent bitch and she can do it on her own.
She's like, I'm too cute and fun. I can't share the spotlight.
And she's like in charge over there. Everybody adores her. One day we'll talk more about you, Mualani.
I think it's interesting too with Chaska. Well, with Flower Feather Clan in general. I mean, so we see it with Aoife and Chaska. They fly, actually, literally fly. That's their Saurian is the flying one, the Kukusaurus. But they have guns and they like it's a very, I don't know. I just like the fact that they match in their little group too. Not that like Jalonin and Kachina don't match, but I don't know. There's just something about their little gunslinging ways that they look like they should be in a Western.
They match a lot on like morals, ethics, behaviors. They have a lot of respect for one another, like as the two calling them like counterparts, which makes it a fun dynamic too. But we'll get back to all this. When we first hear about Aoife, we never see him. We hear about him in some of our interactions with Auroran and Slitlali during the Archon quest. This is when we learn that like Auroran's soul needs like the specific stone to help keep him stable, and that Slitlali has to change that stone every now and then because he's basically a robot. And she uses Aoife to get in touch with Auroran during this. And we get some like mumblings of overheard conversations and things. And we also get to see the beautiful drawing that Auroran has done of Aoife in front of the veterinarian shop. But we never see Aoife himself.
Yeah, we hear about him like caring for animals. And wasn't there something about like, Auroran's like garden and like how Aoife would like come and was he like exchanging vegetables or something? Or something about that?
Yeah, some like very mundane about Aoife. Like you kind of realize at that point that Aoife was a vet and that he was friends with Auroran and that he was willing to deal with the Slitlali Auroran family dynamics.
Yeah, and you definitely got the hint of like, oh, I guess that's someone we're going to meet later.
He was very, very anticipated. People were hyped about Aoife for a very long time online.
I feel like because like we heard him too. Like we heard him out of his little trailer and it was kind of like, why can't we see him? Like Auroran is literally outside talking to somebody who's inside and we just don't see him. And it just added like this whole mystery to him.
Yeah, it made me mad.
It made you mad?
Yeah, why is everything off screen again? Like,
It's really funny they made him that mysterious, and then you meet him and he's just like, "Hey bro, what's
Yeah.
up, dude?"
it's so true.
You're like, "Who is this surfer cowboy
Mm-hmm.
African gaucho?" Like,
And what is this little bird? Because he doesn't look like any of the Saurians I've ever seen before.
Well, and he was picked on for that.
I know.
Pork cuckoo.
can we talk more about his family for a second?
Yeah. So they were like born, he was born and raised in Flower Feather, right? Like that's home
Yes.
base.
And he has a large family, and it's like a renowned family for veterinarians. And even though like most of the family members don't practice it, but their family name, I guess, is just known for it. But his parents did practice animal medicine, I guess. And what Amanda was saying earlier in the episode is he was kind of resistant to following in his parents' footsteps and like becoming a vet. And I think part of this was also because of him being an airhead when he was a kid, because he talks about how as a kid he could barely get a book through his head because growing up he only had really medicine books to read, which I'm sure he found very boring. But when he would read these medicine books, like he says that the words and the diagrams blew through his brain like a breeze, in one end, out the other. And I was like, airhead alert. But he says that he eventually outgrew that phase and then eventually was able to understand books. But yeah, his parents, also doctors, like we talked about a few minutes ago, his father would get the broom out anytime he would make an academic misstep, which is a little weird. But his parents were also like persistently sick, presumably from exposure to the abyss, because they were frequently like visiting battlefields to tend to the sick during all of the abyssal attacks. So they actually both died when Aoife was 17. And that's kind of when he was kind of like, okay, I guess I will be a vet now. And like actually started becoming like renowned for his own vet skills.
Which, like, how sad.
He's an orphan.
Orphan. And he fits every definition of an orphan.
I know.
Just so you guys know, he was underage. He was not officially an adult yet.
Do you have your checklist out that
Well,
you're reading
because
from?
everyone's so specific about the definition of an orphan anymore, I have to have a list, apparently. You can't just be an orphan because you don't have parents anymore.
I think she's still a little bitter about that conversation.
Yes. But you know what? Okay, this is a little side story because I don't know what my hang up is with that you can't be an adult and an orphan. Very tragically, a friend of mine, her husband passed away from cancer earlier this year. And one of the worst things was that she was also realizing at a time during her grief is that not only is she a widow, she's also an orphan because she lost both of her parents. And I was sitting there, my first thought, now I'm comforting my friend who's going through something terrible. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if you're really an orphan.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I'm not going to say that.
I'm so sorry your husband died of cancer.
Yeah.
But get over your
I
parents.
was like, well, you lost your mom when she was 14, but like, you know, you were a full grown adult when your dad died. And now you're a widow. I'm like, are you an orphan? And I was like, I'm not gonna argue this with my friend as she grieves. But it did pass through my mind, and I was like, there's something fucking wrong with me.
Can you imagine if you had accidentally made a noise? She's like, I'm also an orphan. And you would have gone,
she had just been like, the fuck is wrong with you?
You want to hear about orphans? Let's talk about Genshin Impact.
There were like, it did, you know, she's not even, you know, midlife, and it was in the moment too. It was very heartbreaking, and it's something that's actually stuck with me because I just feel so terrible about that fact. But I still then get a little chuckle because I'm like, orphan. One day I will have this conversation with her. I'm giving her a little bit more time.
If you're listening, you know who you are.
Just pass the checklist over to her.
Yeah, I will, and I'll be like, you didn't make Tiff's definition, but here's my checklist, which has one box and it says 2 dead parents. That's my list for an orphan.
What if you have 3 parents?
Okay, well, given your circumstance, but as long as
all parents are dead.
as long as 2 out of the 3 are dead.
It has to be two. It can be two out of the three, and that you still qualify.
Yes, yes. If you have more than two parents, you just have to majority
You're still
rules.
eligible to get your orphan benefits card.
Yes, and if you're interested in learning more about the benefits of the orphan card, please email Albedo at talesofdevoutpod@gmail.com. He is not an orphan, but he has plenty of people to refer to for questions, and he knows lots of people who have the card. So Aoife, he was orphaned, and he kind of switched paths. It's almost like he was inspired at that point to take up his parents' spot, even though he didn't seem to get along necessarily with one of them.
I think it was like gradual, because he also says that he talks about how he can't remember like exactly when he became this person that looks after others and takes care of animals and is a vet, but he just kind of gradually fell into it, which like if we dig any like deeper into his personality, that's like he has like a very external locus of control.
Yeah, it's something that him and Auroran argue about a lot.
Yeah, which that would make a lot of sense considering their backstories. But yeah, he's like very much like goes where the wind blows, which is sometimes right through his ears.
That's why he's Animo baby with his dead parents.
Yeah.
And all those dead Saurians.
Yeah, all of his dead friends / Saurians.
Does he also take care of the other animals? Like, we know he's a Saurian vet, but does he like care about like the birds too?
I'm sure he does.
He doesn't take care of humans.
He will occasionally.
He helps kids.
He
Yeah.
prefers not.
Yeah. He'll put a band-aid on like a cut, but
So I made a note of the examples they give of his people-pleasing behavior. He makes toys for Saurian whelps. He puts on free guitar performances just to make people and Saurians happy. He brings back fresh fruit for his neighbors each time he returns from treating a patient, and he helps the tribe's kids with their homework.
I think he's a terrible person.
He's basically like the whole tribe's big brother.
Yeah. And he thinks of Saurians as children. Like, I think at one point he like calls them like kindergartners, basically. Like, they have that id mentality, but they also at the same time, like, because they can't process all of their emotions and all of the everything like that, like a toddler can. And but yeah, so he totally is. He's just a big brother to everybody.
Before he became this big brother, though, I did want to backtrack real quick just to the death of his parents and orphaning of him. There's a quote in his character story about his parents' death where it says, "Epiphany or not, early maturity or not, Aoife was not yet fully grown before his parents passed away. After attending their funeral, the 17-year-old was overwhelmed by a hollow sensation, and now he didn't know what to think at all." Obviously, they're saying that he really didn't know at that moment what to do with his future, but what I really want to take a hold on here is the fact that they said that he was 17. They don't use ages a lot in this game. A lot of stuff is very open to interpretation. They'll say when he was young, that type of thing. And I thought it was really interesting that the only 2 times I could think of off the top of my head that ages were like directly said is here at 17 and Diluc being 18 when Krapus died.
Yeah, there was. Oh, I can't remember if it specifically said the age, but in Kenich's, wasn't it on his birthday that he got his father killed?
His 7th birthday.
Yeah. So but I know what you mean. It is rare that they will actually like name the number that they were when these events happen.
And yeah, I was like, wow, you're all of a sudden gonna be dropping numbers like this in Natlan after so long. So I don't know. I thought that was just like an interesting concept.
Yeah.
But as we've said, eventually Aoife decides to become a vet. And I don't know what type of schooling you have to go through in Teyvat for that, especially just to be a Saurian vet.
It was passed down. Dad taught him everything, and a lot of it goes into some research and stuff like that. We see that later on in the event that is his quasi story quest, is that he's very into research and making, like, trying to learn new things and new medicines and stuff like that. But it because it was his ancestors that have taken this on, it just kind of gets passed down. And when you're kind of getting chased with a broom, you're going to learn it.
Or else.
He didn't need a certificate?
No. Who's giving him a certificate?
I don't know, man. My dog went to a vet that had like 9 years of legit schooling, not just like the family name passed down.
I feel like he would be a holistic vet. You know, if he was in today's world, he would be like, you know, a shaman kind of holistic, like healer kind of dude.
A shaman with a gun.
With a gun, yeah. I mean, he's got like scissors on one side and a gun on the other.
I think he also just gradually proved himself like before his parents passed, probably going out with them and like learning from them. But like I feel like all of his neighbors and like the locals, they all knew that he was like an established vet. I think before he even really understood that. And he
Yeah.
talks about in his character stories, like how, again, it's that external locus of control that he has, how he feels that one doesn't necessarily choose where they end up in life. Rather, they tend to slot into positions naturally over time. And then in the Archon quest, he's even talking to Auroran and he's like, well, most people live like that. No special purpose or calling. That's just how the world works. So I think it's an interesting personality trait in this game because most of the characters aren't really like this because most vision holders tend to be ambitious people.
And have main character energy.
Yeah, and he's just kind of like, oh, my parents are dead. I mean, I guess I'll be a vet. Like, what a sure, that's fine. I'll be the vet. Like, dooty doo.
Hmm. Where did Baiju get his medical degree? That was from his family too, right?
He's a loosey-goosey doctor, though. We know that. He literally has a snake sucking venom out of people.
I think that Aoife and Baiju are counterparts.
I don't want them to be. That's my issue. I want Aoife to be more accredited.
You want your Saurian doctor to be more accredited than your human doctor.
No, I didn't say that. I said I wanted Aoife to be more credited than Baiju. I will continue to see my other doctor, so it's fine. I just want him to be better than Baiju. I am on Hu Tao's side of the family debate, so
It would be really fun for Aoife and Baiju to have like an event or like scenes
Yeah.
together in an event or something.
yeah, Aoife's like, you got a little saurian on your neck. He's like, this is a snake, and then she's like, I'm an adepta, you bitch.
Yes.
I'm a god. And Kuku's like, so am I.
So, a little bit about Aoife as a vet. You know, he's a Saurian vet. He doesn't really touch people unless needed, like dire. He prefers to stick to the Saurians. He's been known to purposely stay home at night. So he's basically on call. Like if he's not home, you assume he's out on a call. But he likes to be home in case people need him last minute. He has interesting training techniques with the Saurians where he doesn't want them to be like treat motivated. And so he tries to teach them basically by the ways of the land, which I was like, oh, okay. This is where the shaman with a gun comes in, I guess. And he's quoted saying that being a vet's pretty cool because, you know, bro, there's always going to be those moments where you have to say goodbye, but nothing's ever made me regret my choice. Animals are a lot like kids. They're rowdy little rascals and they can be hard to get through to. But when all is said and done, they're the future and I'll always protect them.
He's a Saurian life coach.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
really, yeah. I mean, it's his ethics that I think make him such an interesting character and a good vet, right?
Mhm.
He is the most requested vet in all of Natlan for the Saurians. I don't know how many there are.
I was gonna say, who else are we calling?
Apparently his whole family line. Where are the others?
I guess there's some family somewhere else doing it. They can't all be dead. I mean, they can all be dead, but
One day we're gonna meet all of his like extended cousins and they're all gonna go, "What up, bro?"
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
There's gonna be like
Yeah,
30 of them
probably.
with blue hair. I'm like,
Mhm.
They're all like hanging out with Mualani surfing.
yes. And he also, as a vet, is very organized. And he actually sorts and files like his papers every night to keep himself together and to keep everything like flowing. So he's a very put together, organized vet, considering the fact that he really didn't know this was happening until other people already told him he was a vet.
Yeah, he does have a nice juxtaposition in that way where he is very easy breezy, beautiful, but just goes where the wind takes him type of thing in terms of his life path. But as a vet, like his work acumen is like very structured and dedicated, and he has like a lot of self-discipline. Like he talks about how he has an unspoken rule for himself that he cannot take in animals long term because he knows that if he starts, he will not stop. So the only
Same.
exception, of course, is Kakuku. But all other animals, he's like, no, they're not going to live with me. Like, I'm not going to start that because I know I'll just like have a menagerie of pets if I do. And he also reads through and tidies his medical files almost every day and often like rereads older files and like will update them so that, you know, they stay relevant and valuable for like whoever comes after him and like learns his craft.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that it like relaxes his body and mind to align the corners of his medical files. So I think that's really interesting for someone who's so relaxed all the time, because to me that sounds like such a anxiety thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very type A.
I'm so nervous, like, this is making me feel better, aligning the corners of my medical files
Mhm.
so that they're perfect, like very like OCD or something. But yeah, I just think it's an interesting mix of like he's just kind of like whatever life throws at you, but then he's very like rigid and structured in these other ways.
Do you ever wonder if his like friendship with Auroran gives him that like tinge of need control? Because like his best friend or his situationship, depending on who you are, is so type B. I mean, Auroran is like freaking out, kind of having a crisis. He's emo. Like his one thing that he enjoys is growing vegetables. He runs off and joins forces with a harbinger. And like you just have Aoife being like, if the corners of my paper can just line up, like everything will be fine. I don't know where my best friend went, and his
Right.
grandma is down my neck, but my papers, like I just kind of imagine it being like, this is the only thing I have control over right now. And he probably didn't go to therapy when his parents died.
I'm like imagining like him having a every other conversation with Auroran is like Auroran telling him all the chaotic things he did that day, and Aoife just looking around for any paper.
Aoife has like a toothpick in his hand and it just snaps. Like he's like, ugh.
He's lining up the leaves on Auroran's crops.
Crops, and I thought you said crotch, and it took me a second to process. I was like, why
Well, I
is he
mean,
putting the leaves there?
You heard what you wanted to hear.
Woo! I was like, what Greek god bullshit are they doing at home? Oh my god. I'm so sorry that took I was like, excuse me? But also, you know, Auroran was kind of like a gateway drug for Aoife breaking one of his cardinal rules of not adopting a Saurian. Though it's not
Mhm.
really Auroran's fault, he was involved.
He helped.
He helped, right? With Kakuku.
Yeah.
It's so funny to read about Kakuku because it very much frames it as like Auroran and Kakuku were like conspiring together to get Kakuku adopted. Meanwhile, Kakuku can only like repeat like little phrases. So it's like, but they make it sound almost like they were like huddling and having conversations
Yeah.
together in the dark of night.
He's just, what up, bro? What up, bro? What up, bro? What up, bro? And, like, but Kakuku has such, like, just a side note, this is like an episode within an episode. Kakuku has such a like tragic little story.
Does.
He is a Kukusaur, even though he does not look like it. And basically, when he was born, his mother was really injured from the birth or from something else we don't know. But Aoife came by and
I believe it was from before because birds lay eggs.
and we don't know what a Kukusaur does.
Well,
They're
no, he
bird.
definitely was
He
in an
hatched.
egg. Yeah, he
Yeah.
hatched out of an egg.
I don't know. No.
He's like the primordial one.
I was just gonna say that's the only egg I know about. So Kukuku, when he was young, his mom was very sick and ill, and Aoife actually helped like get her back to health. But then eventually, Kukuku's mom died for real. She re-succumbed to her injuries, so a big F for Aoife in that book. And he sought out Aoife.
Yeah.
And if I'm understanding correctly, he basically started to eat Auroran's vegetables,
Yeah, that was a part of their plan.
which like Auroran.
It's so funny because Aoife's story quest, I mean, it goes into detail of like Kukuku's backstory, and tells it from like the inner mind of Kukuku, but it comes across as so adult, which is funny when you just hear him going, "What up, bro?" constantly. It talks about how even though Aoife doesn't remember that moment when Kukuku first pecked his way through his own eggshell, he saw Aoife tending to his sick mother. And it's also like a sad parallel between Aoife and Kukuku because they both had sick parents and end up orphans. But, he sees Aoife being this caretaker to his sick mother, but he doesn't have, any vocabulary to tell him. And he desperately wants to find a way to work in Aoife's clinic as a way to repay him for his kindness. But it's funny because it goes so in depth that it even goes as far to say that even if Kukuku could tell him, like even if he did have the vocabulary to tell him, oh, you actually helped my mother when I was born, he like decides that he doesn't want Aoife to know because he wants their bond to be unclouded by the past.
Oh.
So it's very like this pure kind of driven ambition on Kukuku's part to like work his way into Aoife's life. But yeah, Kukuku and Auroran, they end up plotting together. Aoife's kind of just taking care of Kukuku temporarily at first. And he kept making excuses for why he couldn't get rid of Kukuku. But he was also very fascinated by him because he doesn't look like other Saurians. He can talk, sort of, which is unusual. So he was kind of like making excuses. And then Auroran is like, oh, I got you, Kukuku. I got you, girl. Like, we're going to get you adopted. We're going to get you a new parent. You're about to leave the orphan club. Part of that plan involved Kukuku doing damage to Auroran's crops. And that kind of leads Aoife to feel guilty. And it corners him into a place where he can't come up with further excuses. And he has to like sort of take responsibility for Kukuku and be like, you know what? I'm so sorry this happened. This is my fault. And I just have to face the music that I am adopting Kukuku.
Yeah. That I love him. I must keep him.
And then Kukuku and Auroran are like high-fiving behind his back.
We did it! Yay! The sad part too, though, is like Aoife's looking after Kukuku because he got hurt so bad being bullied and pecked at by other Kukusaurs.
Yeah.
Because he looks different. And I assume, they don't say it, but I assume that's why he has a patch on his eye. Because he was like he almost like died. There's a couple times he's almost died.
Yeah, he does not have a lot of like
good luck.
He doesn't care either. He's like, yeah.
Well, because he goes out with Aoife when they are going to look at like sick Saurians, and he got sick. He got one of the diseases, and he almost lost him. And Aoife was like really distraught about it and couldn't imagine like what was going to happen if he lost him, because he became such a big part of his life and his clinic.
Poor Kukuku, he got bird bashed.
It's like an angry bird.
Yeah.
Also, about Kukuku, Aoife says that Kukuku is very possessive of him. I mean, he doesn't like seeing Aoife with other Kukusaurs. But also about Kukuku is just that he reminds me a lot of a lyrebird, Tiff.
A lyrebird? So he's lying to you?
Well, I was recently a part of a PowerPoint night where everybody's D&D characters were given a bird, and our DM, who we always joke is a mimic, was given the lyrebird because they are so good at mimicking noises.
Was it Clarande?
No, Clarande was not involved. I didn't invite her.
Uh-oh.
She's too demanding. No.
It's like a mockingbird too.
Yeah, but the lyrebird literally can mimic, like, it's known to mimic the most from my understanding, and I watched a video of it mimicking a camera shutter and like a chainsaw and a car alarm.
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking of Kukuku because he kind of like mimics Aoife in talking, which is unusual for any type of bird. It's so rare. I feel like there's, besides parrots, we don't really know a lot about birds that could do that. So I kept thinking of a lyrebird, and they're kind of like little birds like Kukuku too. So I was like, oh my God, is he like a little lyre?
Ravens will do it too.
Oh my God, that reminds me. I used to live in an apartment, and I know this has happened to other people. They they feel my pain that I'm about to describe. There was a mockingbird that would perch right outside my window and mimic car alarms at like 6 o'clock in the morning. It was horrible. It was so horrible. I would like throw things at it.
One of my favorite things ever is that a mockingbird decided to nest in front of my sister's door, basically. So every time she came out the door, the mockingbird was like, fuck you, and like went after her to the point she had to use an umbrella to get to her truck.
I thought you meant it literally would
Literally
say,
said, fuck you. Oh my God, I would love it.
Like
But,
mimicking her.
I stood outside and the bird just goes after her. It was hysterical. Not to her. To me and my mother, though, we were like getting the popcorn. And then she was just like, what is this thing making this noise, too? Because northern mockingbirds are very vocal in the middle of the night, too. So she'd be like, oh my God, she's trying to kill me. This bird is trying to kill me.
Oh, too bad it wasn't a liar bird.
Yeah.
Liar bird.
But yeah, that's our episode within an episode. That's a little bit about Kukuku. He says that and Aoife's like, I don't remember Kukuku's first word, but I remember being woken up at 5 a.m. to him going, rise and shine, bro. And if any of you ever wake me up going, rise and shine, bro, you will get a pillow to the fucking face.
They say he doesn't say anything more than that because his vocal cords are limited. I assume because he's a Saurian, but he does understand all of human language. Like, he understands it the one way. He can't just say it back. But he's also a nice little translator, though, with other Saurians. And Aoife says at one point, like you got to look into their eyes, and that's how you can, like, you communicate kind of like almost like telepathically.
Mm.
And so, like, Kukuku will find out info and kind of pass it along in a bunch of
Yeah. And he's really good because he can actually communicate with the traveler when the traveler indwells with a Saurian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like full-blown conversation.
Yeah. So he was very helpful for us. And my last fun fact, because I almost forgot about it, guys. My favorite fun fact about Kukuku is that he has been chosen to not be a random flying object in Fontaine. So he is cleared in Fontaine to be there whatever day of the month that flying objects are forbidden. So, because, Fontaine has that ridiculous little rule. But he's good. And I love that for him.
Yeah, when he first gets to Fontaine, it's not good.
He gets put in jail.
He does end up in Fontaine with Aoife and Auroran at some point, but we'll talk about that later. Now, Aoife doesn't have a hangout or anything because apparently we don't do those anymore. But he did have a story, like a event story that very much surrounded him and his life.
It was an event that was called the Tournament of Glory and Bloom, and it came out after the release of the final Archon and stuff too within Natlan. So if you were up to date and following along, it kind of worked out that you got it in the same kind of like sequence and stuff. And much like Albedo, but as I was reminded earlier by Fiends, not as much.
Yeah, off recording, I reminded Tiff that Albedo has
Albedo's was more important.
Quest.
Yeah, no, well, I said that Albedo's was more important. Her big thing was that it was longer.
He had more.
Size queen.
I know, just for him. You think he's a short king, but
Albedo's story being in an event is detrimental to the overall story. Aoife's not so much, but it was still interesting and fun and great.
It's one of the saddest quests in the game.
Okay, on the scale of Rue.
It's not that sad, but it's like
Rue is a 10, and who's like Yao Yao's a 0. Where do you put Aoife's story?
I would say like maybe a 7.
yeah, I'd go with a 7.
On the Rue scale of things.
And like maybe why is his name not coming to me? The guy that gets old.
Oh, in Inazuma with the delusion.
Tepe.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Tepe. Like Tepe, I would say is like an 8.
Yeah. Tepe had about like a 10-minute story, and it was so heartbreaking. I always like see Tepe like leaning up against the wall of that house. Like, oh my God. So back onto our other sad story. This one actually starts over at the Children of the Echoes. Everybody's kind of like, there's a whole group of people who are like hanging around, kind of like looking at what's going on. So we're like, hey, let's go see. And it ends up like that all these people are actually looking at a very sick Saurian. And like one of the first words, and if you didn't meet Aoife at this point, this is like your introduction to him. But like Pakal, who's the AKA Questlove, who is the chief of the Children of Echoes, he was like asking, like, is there any hope? And he's like, chill, bro, I'm thinking. And I was like, oh my God.
I remember that being my first interaction with him and being like, oh my, really? Who is this? And it was like, this is Aoife. And I was like, damn it.
Yeah, so he's Aoife's examining this little young teleposaur whose name is Milray, and he's in a lot of pain. And Pakal tells us that he was involved in the Natlan battle, but he's like a little guy. Like, he's not like a full-grown Saurian. So Pakal says that he was, you know, they didn't want him to go into battle, but they couldn't stop him. He kept sneaking around them and going out to go help and stuff like that.
Yeah, you couldn't help it. He's just too brave.
Yeah. And Pakal tells us that he's not the strongest, but he's really smart. And he did get the Warrior's Medal after the war. But he also, after the war, started getting fainting spells.
Same, honestly.
But the cutest thing is, so Milray's there, and then his little friend Nyan is also there. And so this way you can tell who our little Saurians are. He's got this cute little, like, battle, like, helmet thingy around his horn, and Nyan has a little bow. And I'm just like, that's your girlfriend, isn't it? Like, they're little friends, and like she says at one point a little bit later on, the Nyan, when we're indwelling as another teleposaur, we're able to hear her say to Milray that he needs to get better because she has so many things she wants to say to him. And I was like, oh my God, it's little baby love, and I love it.
Yeah, because a lot of this quest is us like indwelling in the Saurians and talking to Saurians as we're indwelling to better help them and help Aoife.
Because we can't just look into their eyes and see what's going on like Aoife can. So, you know, we had to.
Tiff, I had no idea you were so into baby animal romance, but I have written it down and I will be sharing it with the authorities.
Oh, not the authorities.
It's like teen romance. It's their little teen romance, and I love it. They're so cute.
This is a YA novel.
Yes. Because like when they're so happy, they jump around. Like I can't. The Saurians.
Nyan's bow is top tier.
Yeah. It's very
top tier
Kitty
accessory.
She's adorable. So, well, as this is going on too, like all these people are talking, and Cuckoo flies up and he's telling everyone, steady there, bro. We'll find a way. And it's just, I'm sorry that you have to keep hearing me with my stupid accent, my little fake cuckoo. I know I don't do it that great, but in my head, it's perfect.
It is perfect. I think it's perfect.
Paimon calls Cuckoo a Cuckoosaurus. I can't even say it. Cuckoosaurus. And she's like, that's who we met at the vet clinic. That's her little nickname for Cuckoo. Cuckoosaurus. I went to speech class. I think this is really tapping directly into the S's and the Th's that I had a problem with.
It affects us all. Don't worry.
Yeah. So, like, you know, Aoife's like, oh, I think I figured it out. This little Saurian was in the war, and he ingested more phlogiston than normal juvenile Saurians would. And he developed this rare pathological problem. The symptoms probably started really early, but he was being a strong little boy and wasn't telling anybody until he started passing out. So, moral of the story there, listen to your body.
Go to the doctor.
Don't use so much phlogiston during the war.
Don't use drugs.
A universal message.
Since Aoife doesn't know anything, like, he doesn't have anything like on hand to like treat it and stuff. He knew he like read about it probably when the broom was out. When he was like studying, he'd, you know, heard a little bit about it, but he doesn't have any of the things on hand that would help him. And the two main ingredients are a herbaceous perennial known as an ocean zephyr. It's pretty rare. It can grow anywhere, but it doesn't want to. Like, it's kind of like, I'm going to hide.
What a fucking
It's the Amanda of perennials.
Yeah, I don't want it to grow either.
And then he's like, oh, and it's something else called like a sacred flame crystal. He's like, but I never really figured out what that was. And Pakal's like, oh, I've heard of that. The old Natlan people used to make it.
Down at the nursing home.
In Natlan, they don't crochet. They just they make crystals.
They make flame crystals.
It sounds like you're just taking like a kidney stone out.
But yeah, back in the day, they used to make these sacred flame crystals. So the olden timey ones. So Pakal's like, well, we'll just go get the chiefs. They might know. So he's like, I'm gonna go like find them. And we get to have this little conversation with Eva where he's like, what up, my dudes? Fucking can't. I just can't. Even rewatching this story, I was like, I had the same feelings back again where I both loved and hated it so much. Like it leans on the love side, but I also was like a little cringy. Like I felt like embarrassed for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just living his best life, though.
Yeah.
No embarrassment up in there.
But when he says, what up, my dudes, we are given the options to either go, hello, or your rep precedes you, bro. Respect. And I'm like, what? Who's Traveler all of a sudden?
I love it. That was what I chose.
Yeah, of course. Respect. Like I expected like the little like chest bump. And Eva explained, like he introduces us in Kakuku and he's like, oh, I already know who you guys are. Like you're famous. So, and he gives us a little bit of a background that we've already gone through about how he's became a vet and stuff. And he says that his family has been doing it for generations. And his dad referred to it as their skills are medicine born of guilt. But he didn't really know what that actually meant. Kind of come up with his own reasons, but his dad died, so there was no one else to ask. Which is the part that goes, well, is there anybody else in the family that is around that could tell him?
Yeah, what's with this big family that won't like talk to you?
So he mentions too that like of what he knows about this illness, nobody's ever been able to cure it. So he's like determined to make sure that Milray makes it through. At this point in the story, I was like, if they kill the fucking Saurian again, that's gonna be it for me. Like I'm not gonna be able to handle it. Because one of the things that got me so bad during the Natlan battle was the dead Saurians.
Remember the one whose parents died and he was seeing the ghost?
Ah, yes. We refer to that a little bit later too. It's his grandparent. Like, kill the people. Don't kill the animals, please.
Watch out, guys. You heard it from Manson's PR specialist herself. Kill the people.
Well, at this point, like, we have this little conversation. All of a sudden, the chiefs all come back. And, like, this is kind of a newer thing because, now that, like, the battles are over, the chiefs have more time. So where it used to be uncommon, they now, like, get together for dinners. And these 6 fucking chiefs are, like, kind of like, well, we get together for dinner, but, sometimes you fuck it up. Like, or I'm over here. Like, they're bickering and it's hysterical. Because they're all so ridiculous. We have Questlove, who's Pakal of the Children of the Echoes. Waina, who's Scions of the Canopy, and probably the normalist one. Amina, People of the Springs, who's a child. Matoda, who is the Flower Feather Clan, so he's a cowboy. Biram, who's Masters of the Night Wind, and he's ginormous. And then there's the best one ever, which is Aktal, who's Collective of the Plenty, and he's a luchador.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking luchador. And they're arguing over dinner. And this is why event stories need to be there. Not this way you can learn about Aoife, but this way you can see the ridiculousness.
Yeah, it was so camp.
Yeah. So now all the chiefs are like talking and kind of trying to figure things out. And Biram's like, oh, you know what? This is from the Bloomflower trials. It used to be like, that's what they used to do before the pilgrimage to make Sacred Flame. And Sacred Flame crystals are just a pure version of Sacred Flame that they get from the pilgrimage. After a while, though, the pilgrimages, because they did them so much and stuff, and so many people were doing them, they produced enough Sacred Flame that they didn't need to do the trials anymore. So they kind of like moved on. So that it's not really common. It hasn't been done in a long time. But they're like, hey, you know what? Let's get some people together. We could do it. We'll figure it out. We'll get some Sacred Flame crystals to appear out of nowhere because we're fighting. And it's important that it's like tribe against tribe that has to create it, which I guess is also what's happening in the pilgrimage too. But I don't know, feeding a flame seemed to go a little bit more. The fact that these crystals are just going to pop up out of nowhere is a little strange.
Because they're kidney stones.
Yeah, they're kidney stones.
You're beating them out of them.
The Marika's kidney stones. They're just picking them up. So the chiefs are like, we'll go figure all this stuff out and get it planned. Eva's like, I'm going to go find the Ocean Zephyrs. And at this time, Milray's friends, like one of each Saurian comes by to see him. And Eva's like, you guys are coming with me. We're going to get these Ocean Zephyrs.
They're such supportive besties.
Yeah. So now, like, they all go and, like, Milray, like, sits up and it's like he's trying to say something. And Traveler's like, what is this little guy trying to say? Maybe he's hungry. So we indwell, which for some reason I kept in my mind saying imbibe. And I'm like, we did not imbibe with the Levosaurus.
I hope not.
So we indwell into a Dilophosaurus. We go over to go talk to Milray, and we tell him like, don't worry, the humans are going to get the ingredients, you're going to be cured, you're going to be great. And he says he's worried that the nice humans don't know how dangerous the sacred flame crystals are. He says they can beguile human hearts, turn friends into enemies. So he's basically saying like beguiling would be like you get enchanted and it's deceptive, like you're going to be like completely bamboozled and you're going to turn against people.
Mm-hmm.
And then Milray goes poop, and he passes out, and again, little heart tears up because this little guy, it's so sad in the way he like falls over. But Milray passes out. We asked Nyan, like, well, who told you about the crystals being dangerous? And like the chiefs didn't even say anything. So like, how did you find this out? And she tells us about a mysterious Kukasaur that they met when they were fighting all the monsters. She said that he like had no other friends, or he didn't have a human companion, but he always hung out with them and they really liked him. But like he would just show up and then go away. He would say things that they just didn't understand. And they're just like, and I guess beguile, because I can't imagine little saurians knowing beguile human hearts.
Yeah.
Like came along with a dictionary for that one.
Well, it's funny how good their vocabulary is when you're indwelled.
Yeah, they're totally, for a saurian, they speak perfect.
Very developed language.
So now at this point, the chiefs have to go like ask Moeka, like, hey, can we have this Boomflower trial? And she's like, yeah, sure, why not? We're not going to force people like we do. We're not going to force people like we do with the pilgrimage. So it's only on a volunteer basis. But so many people want to do it that they have to like add more spots. And she's like, I remember these trials. My father told me about them from his dad. So she's just like, we're Paimon's just doing the math going, well, that's really fucking long time ago. Like, we know that she's been around, like has been there 500 years. We know that time gap. So we know it's even earlier than that. So it's like, 550, 560, it's a long time ago since they haven't done these trials. Because like, I guess she talks about it saying that it's the last one, or it's an assumption in that point.
Yeah. Like they talk about how something happened during the last one, but they don't know what, like something happened to cause it to be the last one.
Mm-hmm. There's a little side thing of like, because now we have to, because it is a regular event too, so we have to have all the little stuff. Our Not Law friends are all like, hey, join our team. And they're all trying to like get us to pick them by offering foods to Paimon because she's going to be the decision maker. And we're just like, how about we just change sides? Like, we'll just go on each team. And Paimon's like, oh, that's a great idea. Wait a minute. Do I get my food? Like, who's still gonna try and like, bribe me?
Will they still try to woo us?
Yeah.
I need to be wooed with delicious things.
I need to be wooed with delicious things. That's gonna be like on my subject of my, like on my email, like in my signature.
Sincerely, Tiff. And then it has a very small font. I need to be wooed with delicious things.
So at this point, like, the whole trial kicks off, and we won't go into all that because you're doing all the battles and stuff like that. The only good part, or to me, the best part about the trials is at the end, we get those like stills of, because everybody goes to the springs. And if you remember, every time when we met over at the springs, we never saw people in them. We just got like their photographs. And there's a photograph of Paimon and a Hau in the springs where like Paimon's like drunk over a tube, and a Hau like has like a towel set. And it's so ridiculous, but it's the best part of all of the battle parts. So it doesn't do much to the story here, but I needed to point it out because of that. Oh, it's so cute. So back over by like Milray, Sitlali comes over to be like, hey, what's going on? And she comes over and she's like, oh, what you guys seem preoccupied. Like, what's going on in your mind? We tell her about the beguiled human minds, and she's just like, that's just a baseless rumor. And we're like, well, how do you know that? And she's like, well, go look at some woven scrolls and look into it. I was like, you don't even know. And you're like, that's not real.
And Moeka said the same thing too, basically, right? She was like, no, that's a false rumor. That's not going to happen. And if anything bad happens, I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
And then we don't believe her. So we tell Sitlali, And so Ellie's like, no, Marika's right. Like everything's fine, but we'll look into it just to make sure. But with way more attitude than that.
Yeah, with just a lot more attitude, as she always does.
Uh-huh.
So we go through the scrolls. We don't find anything at first, but like we do notice there's like a lot of like about the tribes fighting each other. And Sitlali says that used to actually happen a lot before Muika. The tribes just didn't get along. Like they fought against each other a lot.
Yeah, these hoes were catty.
Mm-hmm. And Kachina finds something in her scrolls, and she's like, well, the last time that there was these trials, they were also trying to help another Saurian, which is interesting, but they were unsuccessful. And then it goes on to say in the scroll that the leader of the Flower Feather clan had a falling out with his brother, and his brother left the tribe to become a recluse. Sitlali kind of deduces at that point, like, oh, that's the beguiling hearts. That has to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, well, we go back over to Nyan and we're like, well, how do we find this mysterious Kukasaur that you told us about? And she's like, well, he just shows up. So I don't really know, but he seems to live over by a stone gate. And then she goes, he looks light and floaty. And we're like,
what the hell does that mean?
is that your best description? Light and floaty? And she's just like, yeah, light and floaty. Like when you see him, you'll know.
That's gonna be my email signature. Like anytime I eat like a salad for lunch, my email signature is gonna be like, sincerely, Brandon, light and floaty.
Or what if you just wrote, instead of sincerely, light and floaty? Like during the pandemic, I used to write in all my emails, stay safe, Amanda.
I also just wanted to point out that while they're going and talking to Nyan and they're getting this light and floaty intel, Kachina goes to the Flower Feather clan to ask the current chief for like more information about like what happened, like what went down between the old chief and his younger brother. The current chief is basically like, no clue. Next, just like moves along. Didn't try to like help or like figure anything else. So they were just like, I don't know.
Please go away.
Sucks to suck.
Yeah, you gotta love Natland sometimes.
Like now at this point, like all of our little Natlan friends also are going to try and find the Kukasaur for us. No one's really able to find anything out. Our only lead is we indwell into Kukasaur and we talk to like a little family of Kukasaurs and we're like, have you seen this light and floaty? They're like, oh yeah, light and floaty, we've seen him. And we're like, son of a bitch, that is actually a description. Like, is this like a Saurian thing?
They're like, actually, isn't the light and floaty on you? Is that not Paimon?
Yeah, like, what? Isn't that her? So as we're going to check in with Sitlali and Kachina, and Aoife comes by and he says, hey, I heard that you're looking for a weird little Kukasaur. He's like, it's been following me. I don't know, like, it just is there, but it's light and floaty.
Inserts the biggest eye roll. I'm like, damn it.
He goes on to tell us too that like in the middle of the night, like they saw him and like Kukuku saw him and like passed out. Got so scared. So we're like, okay, this guy's a ghost. And so Lally is like notices something going on, and because we're like, well, if he's been following you, he's got to be around here. And he's like hiding behind a bush. But the best is like he's a little ghosty Kukasaur who's light and floaty, but he's got this like he looks like a 1920s airplane pilot with this little jacket and goggle things. Like, have you ever seen the movie Up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, when you see like in their Adventure Time when it's like when the old man's a little kid, like he's wearing all of those, that's what it looks like. This, it's like, oh, he's old, let's use this.
Speaking of sad stories.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, remember how no one would stop talking about the first 10 minutes of Up after it came out?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It was like, that made me cry so much.
Yeah, that was rough.
Also, I just want to say I'm really curious to know what Kakuku said when he saw the Kukasaur ghost. Because I'm imagining like, oh, hell fucking no, bro. Like, let's get the fuck out of here, bro.
And then right on the ground. I'm picturing it and it's making me laugh too much. So we follow this little guy and we're like, you know, show us something, explain something to us. And he brings us over to a spot and he's just like making like, I don't know, the universal sign for dig. Because apparently Aoife's like, oh yeah, no, he wants us to dig here. And we're just like, oh, okay. He digs up and there's actually woven scrolls that document the last Bloomflower trial. But like Citlali has to make a point to say that they're not good. That they were done badly. Which I was like, it's our clue. Why you gotta like
She's like, these scrolls are raggedy. Like, who made these raggedy ass scrolls?
Yeah. So we get to see this little story, like a little background. And basically, it's our little ghost guy, his two humans. They're talking about how they're going to save him. Their names are Amara and Nampole, and they're brothers. Nampole is the companion to the ghost guy, who we find out his name is Amtu. And Amara is the chief of the Flowerfeather clan. So Nampole's like, I got to fix, like, this is my guy. I got to fix it. I don't care what's going on. Like, I'm going to do everything I possibly can. And for some reason, the vets always have to go after the Ocean Zephyrs. I don't know what that's about, but
Makes
he's
sense
like,
to me.
does it?
Yeah, why not?
Don't you get the sense that Nampole is like the only one with any kind of smarts in the past?
Oh, yeah.
Like the only reasonable person around.
Yeah.
So I could see Nampole being like, I don't trust these idiots to go find these super rare plants. Like, I'm going to go do this myself to make sure this gets done right.
And I'm going to say it can only be me for the rest of eternity.
Yeah. As he's telling Amara too, he's like, well, these sacred flame crystals, like, it's about fighting and stuff. So you guys can do that. But like, you know, from the trials, like this kind of gets made from all the fighting and stuff. And like, it can do all this different stuff, including like, it can enhance a warrior's strength. So I'm like, Nampole, why you gotta give extra info? Just tell him it's gonna fix the Saurian. Like, don't give more info.
Meanwhile, I was like, strength?
Yes. Amanda starts hoarding the crystal.
Yeah.
Yes. All of a sudden, you're like, Amanda, when did you start juicing?
Yeah.
Put the peptides down, Amanda.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've just been going to Yansan and eating Caesar salads. Like, leave me alone.
Imara's like, well, how are you going to get all these tribes to do this trial together? They all hate each other, basically. And he's like, well, I've fixed Saurians in each one, so they owe me. So I asked them and they said, okay. Imara's like, all right, cool. I'll work this out with them. You go get your perennials. So now we see all the tribes like kind of talking to it, and like they're all like arguing, like, you did this wrong and you were too hard here and blah blah. Like they're just infighting, and it's just a lot of chaos and stuff, and they're just yelling at each other. And we find out that contestants were actually pocketing the sacred flame crystals. Because why? Because they found out that it would be help a warrior's strength. So they're like, well, I want that.
Roids.
Yeah, they're fighting over the roids. So Antu's watching all this, and he's just like, well, oh my God, this is my fault. Like all these people are fighting because of me. So he like leaves. Nobody notices.
He faded into the bush like Homer Simpson.
And the chief eventually notices, right? And then was like, well, I was going to save some of these crystals for Antu, but he left, so I can use them now.
Yeah, like, oh, he left.
It's fine. It's fine if he dies. Whatever.
Yeah, he's not here anymore, so such is life. Nampole comes back, and he is just like, oh, wait, what is this all that I'm hearing? It sounds like these trials were a bloodbath, and everybody's stealing the crystals, and Antu's gone, and now they're arguing because Amara's an asshole. Like, all your brother asked you to do was to watch over his pet, and you were just like, I can't.
Yeah, total dick.
Yeah. So Nampole's like, well, give me the ones that you have. And Amara's like, well, see, the Saurian left, so we're just using them all. We're going to like use them in our research. Nampole's like heartbroken and is just like, fuck you. I got to go. You people suck. And he's like, just totally, all I want you to do is to help me with my Saurian. And, you know, you're just being selfish. So Nampole finds Antu after he leaves the Flowerfeather clan, and they go up and they live in a mountain. And Nampole tries to go to the different tribes to get other crystals, and nobody will give him them. He's like, but I need it for the Saurian. And they're just like, nah.
They're like, your brother's the one who was hoarding them in the first place. And then they mock him. They beat him in at least one case.
Yeah.
In
Like,
at least one
sucked.
case.
And Antu is like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is happening. And this is all my fault.
Yep. Your fault.
Any of the sacred flame crystals that he has, he like tries to break them and like ruin them because he's like, this is what's causing it. It's these crystals that are making people act like this. And he dies with this remorse that like it was all his fault and like people were fighting because of him. And like Nampoy finally figures it out, like what truly happened. And he's just like, this isn't right. Like this little guy died thinking all you people were assholes. And he's like, I'm going to study medicine and heal Saurians because I don't want to have anything to do with the people anymore. And he's like, and I'm going to write up these woven scrolls and P.S. they suck, so Lally, shut up.
So Lolly's wrinkling her nose while she reads this.
Yeah. He says, like, I don't really know how to do this, but future people need to know what happened. So we go back to the gang and just like Netflix, we have to give a recap to everything.
Dun dun.
Yeah. So they're like talking about it all and they're like, okay, well, so Lolly's like, well, the Antu is obviously following you, Eva, because he feels the familial connection. You know, he must know that you're somewhat related. And we indwell as a Saurian and talk to him. And he's like, whoa, you can turn into a human? And he's like, can you show me? And he tells us like he basically thinks that people don't like him and they don't want to talk to him and stuff like that. And it's all very, he's a ghost and he's still feeling like nobody likes me.
Yeah.
So he remembers what happens and he remembers all of the pain and things like that. He says that, like, you know, he came out of a cave that he was staying in and the Abyss fight was happening.
Mhm.
We kind of try and figure out like what was going on and he sees Melray and Nyan. I'm just going to kind of skip through a little bit more of this parts because to move it along into the story part. But basically he goes and he helps Melray and Nyan. And after after the monsters are gone, he thought he heard Nampol's voice calling him. But he saw that Milray got sick, so he didn't go, and he wanted to stay and help his friend.
Right. Like his spirit beckoning him to join him in the Night Kingdom, right?
Yeah. And he was like, but Milray, I'm going to stay ghost.
Yeah, because he's like, Miller has the same illness that I did. And then I heard people talking about those damn crystals and I have to save them.
Yeah. So he was telling them that it's, you know, bad news and stuff. You know, he's just like, all these people, like, I have to tell you I have to tell you the good news. I have to tell you to stay away from the crystals and it's going to make everything worse. And they want them and you just shouldn't do this. So we're like, well, wait. Milray's not going to take the crystals now because he thinks that it's going to make everybody mad because that's what Antu is telling him. So we're like, we need to get him to believe that it's all good. And we come up with this like little like story that we're going to do.
Yeah.
We give out parts. It's like a little play. And Auroran's like, Kanish is going to be like the stage manager and the director.
Kanisha's like, thank fuck.
Yeah. And we're going to put on this whole thing. And basically, our plan is that we are going to make it look like the crystals go evil, make us mad, we all fight. And then Antu's going to come over and do some magic, and everybody's going to be happy again. And the crystals will be good. And it'll be like, yay, now it's good.
Yeah.
And this is basically exactly what we do.
Like, you are Irish, Antu. You're not Scottish.
You're not Scottish.
Irish.
You are Irish. Like the little fights and stuff are actually very funny because like some of them are like, wait, are you really saying this? Like, you sure? Are you really mad at me? And like Aurora just keeps like doing magic, like making the crystals turn black and smoky and all this stuff. And I'm like, I knew that he could do these things, but like I feel like they just glaze over the fact that he's just magic. Him and his half soul is just magic. So we're gonna do all this. We set it all up. We go through the whole thing. Milray and Nyan are like kind of buying it. Like, this is what's happening. Like that they're actually like, really like, they're like, oh my God, like you see, look, it's the crystals.
Mm-hmm.
Aoife's like, okay, let's bring it in and Antu can do their part and like cast a spell of unity. It's very camp, but it's cute. They use like magic to make him fly because he's a ghost and a Kukasaur, so apparently he can't fly. I thought those two things would make you fly. Ghost, guy with the wings.
Yeah,
but
I thought he was floaty.
Yeah, he's apparently not too floaty because Auroran had to go put him in a magic bubble and like run him all over the place. And as that happens, all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, you know what? I'm not mad anymore. We all like each other. And the two little Saurians are buying into it too. And then like all of a sudden a How comes up and he's just like, hey, what's going on? Oh my God, you guys are fighting. This is great. And then all of a sudden everybody's being nice. And he was just like, what? Like, why is this? And like, Kenichi like apologizes to him for not understanding him and he faints.
Meanwhile, he was like putting sharp objects in everyone's hand who's standing anywhere near Kenichi. Like, here, you keep arguing. You're mad, right? You're mad.
Yeah, fight to the death. Get Kenichi. So Antu tells Milray and Nyan the good news that, like, you know, the sacred flame crystals have been cleansed and it's going to make everything better. And Ayan-san brings over the ocean zephyrs and the other Saurians, and that's when we get our beautiful cutscene, as we always do. Milray gets healed, and he's so fucking happy, and he's doing his little dancey dance, and he grabs onto like, come meet my friends, and then like it's very heartwarming. Antu is so happy to have friends. All the different Saurians are like bringing him for like they're like piggyback rides, and like it's cute. So in the end, though, Napole appears. And Antu runs over to him and then like does this little like wave to Milray, and he's reunited with him in the Night Kingdom, and there's a hug and it's cute and there's tears. And Milray is just like, my friend. This is sad, but Aoife's like, but look, it's not. Like, you got better, now he got better because now he gets to go be with his bro. So he's like, we all helped we all did this. My ancestors couldn't do this. We figured it out. We're fantastic. I'm going to keep looking into this stuff and I'm going to fix it all.
Yeah, and we made a historic contribution to the study of phlogiston-related diseases.
Mm-hmm.
So does that make us a doctor or a historian?
I think it's makes us a researcher.
It makes us a Saurian life coach.
Yeah. It makes us ready for a party. Is what it does. So we go have a party. We go to talk to everybody. All this stuff's going on. Aoife's missing, though, and Aoife goes up to this hill where the woven scrolls were hidden, and he's like paying respects to his ancestor, and he's just like, you know, he's up at this little grave, and I guess he's telling Napole about his little Saurian companion and how he was bullied and he almost lost him. He would do everything he could to make sure that he was okay. Like, he understood why he was doing what he did, because he's like, I would have done the same thing for Cuckoo, and he would have felt the same kind of guilt. But he tells him, you know, like, there's no more of this medicine born of guilt. He shouldn't be bothered by it. Like, he's going to continue to improve it. He shouldn't feel this way anymore, and he should be free of it. And, you know, everything is going to be like happy ever after. And Aoife's going to solve all the Saurian illness problems. And that's our little story. And it's very cute. And you can go back to the little grave. And I'm sad that nothing happens when you go up there. Like, I feel like it should have been like when you go to, whoa, her name went out of my head. Spina Navia. You go back to Navia's dad's grave and like you see like, I was like, why can't we have a little headstone? Nothing. I really wanted something there, or I wanted Antu's ghost to show up or something. But I guess with it being an event, that would be really weird for people who didn't know the story.
Right.
Doesn't it make you like wish that the traveler would just have a drink after these events?
Yes.
Just like looking so exhausted, staring into the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like sometimes I feel like I played the story and I need like 3 shots of fire water.
Yeah.
Like, what does the traveler truly need in these moments?
During their little fights and stuff, though, Sitlali and Mulani are part of their fight is the fact that Sitlali drinks too much.
Might be true, though.
Yeah, I was like, truth comes out. Jolonin's telling Moika, you just throw stuff at me to do and it's not right and blah, blah, blah. And all like, you give me too much work. And Moika's like, shit, bitch, you're being real.
It's like when the Sunshine character, like that one friend who's always really happy is like, and you know what? And you're like, oh God, what did we unlock? Oh my God, are you good, bro?
Yeah.
You know what I really liked about this? I liked that it had that familiar thing of, oh, here's a current day character, and they are following in the footsteps of someone in the story that lived in the same area, but that was there centuries ago. Because we see that multiple times in this game. I mean, like, think of all the Mondstadt parallels with like the older generation versus the new. But I like it in this one. It really is just that Nampole was Aoife's ancestor. And they had already established in his character lore that being a vet has run in his family for like generations after generation. So it makes total sense, just like that this isn't like some like kind of spiritual like connection thing. It's, oh no, like you were literally like in his family and were a part of this dynasty of vets in that land.
Crazy, all that like deep cut lore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like a lot of that info, because it is an event, you wouldn't know if you didn't get to play it back then. So at least it is in the lore if you decide to read it.
No one reads.
No one reads. There is another event that Aoife was a little bit involved in called the Whirling Waltz event. And that was the one in Fontaine where Kaniche and some other people from that land suddenly show up in Fontaine. You know, and like Tiff was saying before, that's after the Archon quest resolves in that land, meaning that the citizens of that land can now start traveling to other nations, you know, because the ley lines have been repaired. So they go to Fontaine, and, you know, Kaniche is going there to be a witness in an international smuggling trial.
Of course.
And that just happens to coincide with this Fantasyland Film Buff Festival that suddenly opened.
And I think it's important to note, just quickly too, you mentioned the whole like they can leave now. If they hadn't fixed all the ley lines and Kaniche had gone to be this witness, he would have been having Bennett style luck.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows. It would have been bad.
Maybe even have been like sick.
Memory loss, who knows?
Yeah, Kaniche's there for the smuggling case. And then Auroran is also there. Auroran isn't there because of the case. He's there because of the film festival. And he's there to provide fresh vegetables from that land to this festival restaurant that they opened overnight.
So I can't. It's so,
there's no vegetables in Fontaine.
Apparently not. It's just all baguettes.
Only baguettes.
It's little tarts and baguettes everywhere. He gets there, and Aoife goes with him, and he's sent there to accompany Auroran as his quote unquote responsible adult.
As his Saurian life coach.
Yeah, basically, yes. And but it's funny because Auroran gives him so much shit. Like they're so sassy with each other. But Auroran is like, I actually think the tribespeople just know how overworked you are, Aoife, and they sent you here to give you a vacation.
Way to make yourself feel better.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know, I don't know who to believe, honestly.
It's like, but Auroran, you literally like joined a harbinger. Like no one trusts you on your own. Like
Aoife's like, you've never been out on your own, and Auroran's like, you haven't either.
But I didn't join the Fatui.
Yeah, but at least I didn't join the
Fatui. So they're like, they just kind of egg each other on, little digs at each other, but in a, you know, it's like joking and lighthearted. Some of the other like funny little moments in their conversation include Paimon. Paimon finally snaps, and she's like, because it's like Aoife, Auroran, and Kaniche, and they're all standing around and they keep calling each other bro every other word. And Paimon is like, if I hear the word bro one more time. And so Aoife starts trying to not say it, but he's just going like, yeah, bro, I mean, dude. And then at one point he's like, yeah, bro, other. That's so ridiculous. And then there's some other things are, you know, Aoife says that he's worried about Kukuku because as soon as they get there, Kukuku flies off. And they know about, you know, he's going to get in trouble with the law because of the flying object rule in Fontaine. Aoife's like worried. He's like, I'm really worried about Kukuku. And Auroran's like, don't worry. You're a big boy now, Aoife. You can survive without Kukuku's help. And he's like, that's not why I was worried. Aoife says Kukuku is in deep doo-doo. And I was like, okay, Nahida.
Oh, she would have said dookie.
Yeah, I know.
You're in deep dookie.
And then we find out Ahau is like being very quiet because of the flying objects law.
He's
He's
so
like
scared.
afraid of everything. But we find out Kukuku flew into the Palais Marmonia when they got there. So Traveler goes in to find him, and he finds Kukuku talking to Nuvolet and Risley,
Of course.
both who are just very like idly amused by him. You know what I mean? Like just kind of like, oh, that's cute. That's interesting. But unfortunately, Kukuku overhears confidential information about the smuggling trial. So he has to stay at the Palais for a while so he can sign a confidentiality agreement. And I would love to see how that went down. I mean, he of course is later released, and Traveler takes him back to Aoife. And then also as part of that event, Auroran becomes like a part of this staged operation to lure out like the smuggler mastermind. So just like throughout all of that, there's like other like random comedic interactions between Aoife and Auroran and Kukuku. But overall, it doesn't really connect to the story as much.
It's good little nods to
Yeah,
them,
just
though.
fun little things. They also had some fun interactions in the most recent summer event.
Well, before we move on to the summer event, though, can we go back to Fontaine for a minute? Because some of the best stuff, though, is Ahau and Kukuku just being mad at each other, but it's really Kukuku just saying bro, and Ahau being like, stop it! And then they released like a little mini video of the two of them talking, and it's just Ahau increasingly getting more angry at Kukuku. It's so funny.
Yeah. So jealous that Kukuku's not in trouble.
Yeah.
And then during the cutscene of the sting operation, when they're actually like capturing the smuggler, Kukuku accidentally like Ahau like is about to capture the smuggler basically, and then Kukuku accidentally knocks him out of the sky. So I'm sure that improved their rapport.
Yeah.
But yeah, Aoife and Auroran, of course, they have fun moments in the, what is it called? The summer event.
The Easy Breezy Resort.
Yeah.
Easy breezy, beautiful cover girl.
Easy breezy, beautiful summer spray.
It is the Easy Breezy Holiday Resort.
Sun Spray Summer event is that was. Yeah, Sun Spray Summer event. So during the Sun Spray Summer event, they have some fun interactions as well. I did just want to point out how much fun Kukuku had hanging out and playing with the Asha, the little like paint color creatures in that region. And like love playing hide and seek and stuff. So I thought that was like fun. Like it's fun to see how social Kukuku is.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Ahau was like, blast you.
Yes!
Yeah, literally. Just to go back a little bit, you know, we've kind of been talking a lot about Aoife and his different friendships and enemies along the way, quote unquote. But you guys were talking about Fontaine, and the Traveler has requested that if Nuvolet were ever to get sick, for Aoife to take care of him. And Aoife's like high-key confused about that. But yeah, I think because the Traveler's like, well, they're Saurians are dragons, right? So if Nuvolet gets sick, Aoife would probably do a great job. And Aoife's like, I don't really know what you're getting at, but sure.
Oh no. He like pulls out a thermometer, and Nuvolet's like, nope, and leaves the room.
Also, Ahau and Kukuku have probably met before, because Ahau has actually been treated by Aoife. He once claimed to Kanish that he was like super sick, and Kanish like eye rolled and brought him to see Aoife and like left. He was like, all right, here you go. And Aoife was looking at him and was like, there's literally nothing wrong with him. So he was like, I think you might need to have your head bashed in 5 times. And Ahau was like, what? He was like, I'm fine. And then when Kanish came to get him, he was like, I'm all better. And Kanish was like, wow, he really must have like helped you. And he was like, you don't understand how crazy he is. And Kanish was like, oh, all right.
And Aoife's like, you're a freaking hologram.
Literally, he's like, you came from a bracelet, Ben 10. But, you know, for the most part, he does have relations with everyone who we know is a playable character. He's very proud of Kachina for becoming a good warrior, even though he thought that she would have made a great vet, which I thought was interesting. I'm sure Xilonen is glad to still have her with her. Kachina thinks that he's amazing and kind. It sounded like a Klee quote.
Mhm.
He finds Xilonen to be super creative and innovative, and she's actually made syringes for him to use on the Saurians that he claims are a lifesaver, but it sounds like they just scare the Saurians into submission.
Have you seen them? They're on his back. He has like a little medical thing like Siegeween does, and it's got these giant like syringes of colored fluid and then like a stethoscope, and it's on like some box. I can only imagine what's inside the bag.
Why are you looking at his back?
That's between me and Aoife.
I always tell you, I can't even look at his back because I don't have him. With Chaska, which is, his probably closest allegiance because they're from the same clan, he thinks that her work as a peacemaker is quote unquote extremely important and that she cures a lot of the ills that are beyond Aoife's reach. So causing the mental ills to go away. And that a lot of times Chaska will take her Saurians there and Aoife's quick to be like, you're overreacting, they're fine. Because he's so busy, he has to be kind of blunt. He's met Mawika once or twice. She's actually given him a ride to a Saurian emergency. On her motorcycle, he was quite shook. And Mawika says about him that it's suffice to say if someone is on bad terms with Aoife, human or Saurian, I doubt the problem is with him. So she's very much like, this is a good guy with a good soul. Like, he's cool.
She says that him being able to get along with basically anyone, like she attributes that to his skills and observation and his empathy, which she knows are required when a doctor and his patient do not speak the same language. So I thought that was like a nice, insightful thing for her to say.
Absolutely. Especially for an Archon. She's very in the know.
Yeah.
Compared to others. Anyway. Mualani, interesting enough, he does not have a voice line with Mualani or about Mualani, despite the fact that she thinks Aoife's the best. Another Klee line ripped out. And she says that, like, anytime they invite him to anything, he always joins. And he's really super quick and efficient learning whatever they do. Great example, he went looking for Mualani one day in the People of the Springs and couldn't find her and ended up joining a surfing competition. It was the first time he ever surfed, and he came in 3rd place.
Yeah, it almost felt like, because Chaska's the one that recommended that he meet her, right? And it almost felt like, was this like a setup, like a blind date? Because he stops by her shop twice and missed her both times. Then, he suddenly joins a surfing competition, even though he's never surfed before. Like, did he know she was going to be at the prize ceremony, which she was?
I'm dead. I didn't even think of this as a setup because I'm such a Mualani Kanichi fan that I would think everyone just knows that they're together.
And he impresses her too because he's very athletic, just like she is. And he wins 3rd place in this competition, even though it's his first time surfing. And Mualani's like, wow, like she's very impressed. She talks about like how quick and efficient he is and says that if he wasn't already a vet, he would make a great water sports coach. Oh, I bet he would, Mualani. I bet he would.
I can't get behind an Aoife Mualani. I can get behind an Aoife Auroran. But for the most part, I don't actually ship him too much with anybody. I feel like he is his ancestor. He's a recluse. Like, he's got his bird, he's got his friends, and then he's just like, I got no time for any of this shit.
Well, speaking of his best friend, Auroran, regardless of how you see them, friendship, situationship, relationship, they're quite an interesting dynamic. And we know that Aoife has definitely been dragged into his family bullshit. So when talking about Citlali, he says that she's a tough cookie with a colorful pajama collection, which feels like a backhanded compliment. Like he's just talking about her normal clothes. But he says, and I quote, I try not to get dragged into her and Auroran's drama. So whenever she gives me a message for him, I just pass it right on, word for word, no questions asked. I figure if I want to stay out of her line of fire, the less I know, the better.
Smart.
Yes. And then when he talks about Auroran being his, like, bestie, he thinks very differently. And you just have to, like, kind of go with it when you're with Auroran. And don't try to figure him out, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot in his head. And it's not necessarily on straight. He's not a bad person, and he has a quote-unquote unique way of showing that he cares. You'll know what I mean once you've gotten to know him.
And did you read about their meet cute?
What?
Their meet cute?
No.
How they met? He was, this was like when he was traveling before his parents died, when he was still like, I don't know if I'm going to be a vet. I can do whatever I want. And so when he got to the Masters of the Night Wind, because he was like doing a tour of all the different tribes, basically. And when he gets to the Masters of the Night Wind, he was like walking around and he felt like he was being watched for a while, but couldn't see anything. And then suddenly turns around and he sees Sitlali pointing an angry finger at him. And Auroran suddenly grabs him and like makes a run for it before Aoife even knew what was happening. And after they finished running, he finds out that Auroran was using invisibility arts to hide from Sitlali behind random passersby. So like he thought Sitlali was pointing at him, but she was really pointing like through him at Auroran. So like he immediately got roped into Auroran's family bullshit with Sitlali, where she was like chasing them.
Which makes them soulmates in some regard. Friends, soulmate, whatever, a platonic soulmate, I don't care. Like, because I don't know if I'm like fully on the ship either, but I do love them as like a pair.
I don't really care about them as a ship, but they're cute together.
If they're soulmates, are they only like 1.5 soulmates?
Oh yeah, because Auroran doesn't have half of his soul.
That's why something feels a little off about
it.
Yeah. He's like, we're platonic soulmates, but I'm putting in double the soul.
I don't think that a soulmate needs to be a love anyway. I think that people are in your lives for all different ways, and your soulmates could be your
your
absolutely
friends and
things like that.
I think that you can have multiple because of the platonic. Yeah.
Especially when someone has half a soul.
Yeah, half a soul. Half a soul. Give him his credit, damn it. But I will say, there's this moment in one of Aoife's lines with Auroran, and I don't know if it's Auroran's about Aoife or whatever, but Auroran goes up to Aoife and is like basically having high thoughts. And it's like he's stoned, and he's like, if a human can be a doctor to Saurians, then Saurians can be a doctor to humans. Yeah. And Aoife's like, no.
What did you take?
What was in your radish?
Yeah.
Did you climb in? Like, did you get into Sitlali's cabinet?
Yeah. You growing mushrooms over there?
Also, others talk about Auroran and Aoife. Jean Lonan has a quote where she's like, Auroran's a weirdo, but Aoife has him do a lot for him, and he must be cool if Aoife gets along with him. But I will say, too, they know a lot about each other because Auroran notes that Aoife plays the guitar and that he'll just, like, play in front of the clinic and Saurians and kids will gather and sing along. Although, like, the Saurians don't really sing. They just go, ah.
Can you do that again, please?
And he says that he'll actually, like, join in, too, and sing with the Saurians, which I'm like, but not the people. He'll sing with only the Saurians. I just think it's fun. He's such a interesting character of Aoife, playing music, being a surfing winner. He's also like a try hard and a people pleaser, as Brandon mentioned earlier. He actually signed up for 3 months of fitness classes with Ian-san, but then just didn't go to any.
Yeah. That was on his like tribe tour de force, right?
Yes, it was part of it. Mm-hmm.
That's also one of the things that Auroran is harassing him about later. I think during the summer event, they're trying to play hide and seek with Kukuku and the Asha, but they're so exhausted because they've been doing it for hours basically. So Aoife's complaining like, okay, I'm gonna need a break soon. And Auroran's like, well, you would be in better shape if you actually went to any of those fitness classes. And so Aoife like promises to start going when they get back.
I would like to know if that's happening.
I bet it has not happened.
And I will say too, Aoife has a quote about friends, and I actually think it's quite profound. He says, I'd say I've got quite a big circle of friends. Some cause me headaches, some relieve my headaches, and some of them kind of alternate between the two depending on the day. It's a nice mix now, and they're all great people. And I know it sounds like, Amanda, that's profound. Yes. Because I think it's so wholesome and honest. And it's like that idea that like, you're going to have people you love who are pains in your ass. Auroran, Kukuku. But you also, but they're going to be there for you. And I think there's just something about Aoife and this, like, he second guesses himself, but he's just a good guy. He's efficient and informal. And I just like, I'd like to hang out with him.
Yeah, the bro, every other word, like that would drive me a little nutty after a while. But other than that,
it's the name of his name card. You just have to expect it.
I know. I know. I just feel like I would be Paimon after a while. I'd be like, if I hear the word bro one more time. But he does seem like a very likable character other than that.
And did we mention anything about his vision? I don't believe so, right? How he got
No. Mm-mm.
it? Poor Aoife.
You get the opposite of Barbara's.
Yes. So first off, just Animo, dead parents, dead Saurians. He's got his dead friends club. He's got exclusive access to that club.
Does Auroran count as a half dead?
No, because he's alive. Just
He's
because
got
you only have half a... That doesn't mean you're half dead. He's not a zombie. He's not Rosaria.
She's a vampire. Let's get that straight.
Well, they're soulless. He finds his vision useful, just so you guys know. He'll use it to help, like, the tired Saurians fly more, which is adorable. But basically, Aoife one day got really sick, and all the people living around his shop were like, "Hey, the clinic didn't open. Oh my God, maybe Aoife's like out on a call." And then eventually he got a call and he had to go work and he was like dying, basically. And he went and worked and he did what he had to do. And his neighbors were like, "Bro, like, you have to chill, you have to sit down, you have to take this medicine." Like, and so he did. And he listened to the people around him. And when he woke up the next morning, he had a vision. And he was so confused because he was like, "Why do I deserve a vision? I've gone out and helped people while not feeling well before. I've saved Saurians while sick. This doesn't make any sense." And he was talking to his neighbors because he's apparently a community fellow. And they were like, "It's because you were selfless and accepted help." And I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting concept. We've never seen someone accept help and get a vision before and get it because he was willing to be more community-based, I guess."
And he was also, I mean, you know, because not to downplay like what he did, like even though he was just working while sick, it was also like during an actual abyss invasion near Cinder City. And he got so sick that when he finally did go to sleep, it says that he slept for like an entire day. And then even when he woke up, he was still so sick, he was like drenched in sweat. And he found his vision because he was looking near his bedside for a glass of water because he was like, "I'm dying." And then found the vision. So I think
I'm dying.
Because I was wondering that too. Like, did he get the vision because he accepted help, or was it really from his work ethic of working through those conditions just out of a sense of duty? Or is it like maybe both? I don't know.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Because we're so used to them getting visions from ambitious things, right? Or like doing something particularly brave or difficult or selfless. But it makes sense that accepting help could be in a way like doing that for his personality. And it says that he didn't actually, like, he got his vision and then he didn't actually start using it really until he adopted Kukuku and started using him as his personal helicopter.
He really needed the gust.
The funny part too is when he does use Kukuku as his personal helicopter, is Kukuku can grow out his fucking wings. So you can see it in the character trailer because you see them like flying around. But if you have him also, when you use his elemental, he flies. But if you speed him up, Kukuku's wings like expand out and he's like, that's how he goes faster.
He has like, what's the superhero that's rubbery?
Elastigirl? Mr. Fantastic?
Mr. Fantastic. Yeah, I was like, so Kukuku is like the bird version of Mr. Fantastic, like can just stretch his wings out.
I kind of hate it. I don't want to think about it. It's like he's made of Play-Doh or like a Chili's mozzarella stick.
He's a Chili's mozzarella stick.
He's got a good cheese pull. That being said, Kirara has been holding some mail for us. Albedo checked it for Anthrax. We haven't had a mail segment, I feel like, in forever because with those Nodcry Archon quests, we never have a chance to answer any. So our first message is going to come from Sarek. And they said, "Can someone please educate me on what the Spina de Rosula is, concept-wise? I'm not that locked in on the modern-day versions of Fontaine."
I know someone in our Discord answered them. I forget exactly what they said, but it's basically like a benevolent version of the Mafia.
They are like the people taking the law into their own hands.
Yes, but not really working at odds usually with the cops of Fontaine.
Just doing things in the way the cops wouldn't do.
Like the Robin Hood of the Mafia?
Yeah.
And they also live typically underground, which is just like a fun, like they have two places that they could be found in. One is Poisson.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is the Fleuve Cendré. Fleuve Cendré.
Yeah.
which is like underneath the main city of Fontaine. So those are their kind of like two domains. And it's interesting because they're both considered like sketchy areas, but then Navia comes out dressed like Taylor Swift, and you're like, she's in charge?
With her Italian sunglasses.
Yeah, you're like, why is Taylor Swift coming from the sketch area of town? I don't know. But they're good people. They're like kind of like an unofficial faction. They also act very much like the Men in Black, but without aliens.
Yeah.
And the Blues Brothers.
Yes, they're just very trusted. More trusted than the mafia. They're like Brandon said, good mafia.
Yeah, they work outside of the law and regulations, but like in a good way, in a way that endears them to the people of Fontaine most of the time.
Yeah, I think that answers that.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks for your question.
Yes, thank you, Sarik, however you say your name.
Yes, Sarik. Our next message comes from Miffy Mina May. I love your name. They said, I always really enjoy your artifact episodes, especially since I never really read them myself. Which artifact lore has been your favorite out of the ones you've covered?
I really appreciated the most recent one we did, the finale of the Deep Galleries, because of just how much important lore it drops about angels and the spaceship AI and the Voyager and all of this stuff that we'd been like kind of waiting to find out about. So that one was like the most exciting for me to like research. But I gotta give a shout out to Deepwood Memories and the adventures of Cinnamon, the stripper. Cinnamon, who's just like the most bizarre, like that whole series, that artifact series is such a fever dream anyway.
Yes, it is.
You're like, what is happening? I don't understand. And that's also that episode is like when I came up with our stripper troupe where we were all called the Spice Girls. I don't remember our names, but I know one of us was named Nutmeg.
I think it was you.
I was probably Nutmeg. Yeah, I was like, I call that.
I don't know. I just want to be. Can I be everything bagel seasoning? Like that's my preferred spice.
They call her Ebs.
Stupid.
I think my favorite was the Viridescent Venerer, and it might be because it was the first one, and when I really realized how much was in the artifacts, because I don't think, just like you, I don't think I read them before then. So doing that episode forced me to, and like not in a bad way, but it made me read them, and I was so enthralled by that story, especially because it goes into so many, like it could be so connected to other pieces, and I feel like I want Senora to live somehow, so it might as well be through her weird ass connection to the Viridescent Venerer set.
Yeah, that was a really exciting one, because I don't think we understood how deep the lore went when we started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like Viridescent Venerer holds a special place in my heart because it was the first one, and it was that moment for all of us where we were like, holy shit. And since day one, we have always made our topics for the entire season before we record the first episode of the season. So we always look ahead, and we always have like a meeting where we talk about the topics for the season and decide if they're good, if they're balanced. And I remember us putting Viridescent on the table and being like, what? I don't remember whose idea it was to do an artifact set, but the other two were like, what? This is for battle.
Yeah.
Like, why are we talking about that?
Mm-hmm.
And then doing the research, it was like, oh, wow.
Like, oh, this connects to the Bloodstained Knight, which connects to this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was going to say, I think the Bloodstained Knight is my favorite of the artifact sets. I also think the episode itself was just so fun because we didn't know a lot yet. So we are like, the Bloodstained Knight is Capitano.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We can't wait to meet him. We talked a little bit about Viri in here as well.
Yeah, because there's a lot of connection there.
And I just love Mondstadt lore.
Really? I don't think we knew that.
Yeah.
I don't think we were able to deduce that.
Wait, what?
I would have thought it was Sumeru.
No, Mondstadt owns my heart. It's home. I do love Sumeru's number 2. and I might like Sumeru better aesthetics wise, depending on the day.
And Mondstadt is so much of Fiennes' home that still to this day she goes back to Mondstadt every night to put our characters to bed.
Yes, Albedo sits right outside of Good Hunter every night. That's his home. He said, I'm gonna have a drink and then I'm gonna have some, well, he doesn't really like meat. So I guess he's getting dessert. At Good Hunter, no sweet madames for him. He does meat he doesn't like it. He's a dessert boy, and he deserves dessert.
Oh, I also want to give a shout out to our Emblem of Severed Fate episode with Beefy from the Shade Chamber, because that one was like, I think that's one of, if not our most like informative and thorough ones we did on an artifact set, if that makes sense. Because that's one of those ones that was so complicated. There's so many different characters that I feel like I learned the most doing that one, if that makes sense.
I mean, let's be honest, the Wanderer's Troop too, right? That was a crazy artifact set to learn about. And we do one every season. So I think is that it? Is that all of them? Like
we're like, they're all our favorites.
All our favorites. It's hard. There's how many artifact sets in the game, right? And we've only covered 6. And it's like,
I know.
We've covered so much lore from 6 of them.
I know, we might have to start doing 2 a season at least.
Oh my God, they're like the hardest to research, Brandon.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Sometimes they are. Deepwood Memories.
Which one did we do that was about? Oh, did we do one that was about Inazuma? Oh yes, never mind. The one with Beefy. I'm confusing because I'm thinking of the lore of Watasumi with the gang of characters that kill one of the blanket friends.
Oh, yeah.
Like Moon's Moon people. But we do briefly mention them in that episode. That was crazy. And if anybody wants to check that out, that was that was last season?
Was that Orabashi? Are you talking about Moon's Moon?
No, I'm talking about Emblem. The Emblem of Severed Fate artifact says episode 115. Beefy was brilliant and amazing on it, as are all of our guests. But we have a visual guide of the connections there, which is a character map that Beefy made, and also a visual, it's more like family tree style that we made that has photos.
Yeah.
Hers has like some notes on it. So if you want to learn how all those bitches are connected, you can do that.
Yeah. And I'll add on our site all the links to the artifact ones, to the 7 of them.
All 7. But that being said, that is all the time we have for today, travelers. That is all the time we have for today, travelers. If you like this episode, you can feel free to email us at talesoftavatpod@gmail.com, where Albedo will vet through the mail, graciously delivered by Kirara, and make sure that there is no anthrax involved. We did get a message from one of our fans on Instagram telling us that they were in a stage makeup class, and that they had to each demonstrate a disease or an infection on each other, and that their friend did anthrax. We could not get pictures because they'd be like doxing their friend, but I was told it looked amazing. But don't actually get anthrax, anybody.
Unless you're, that one person.
Yeah.
Dodoray?
Okay, there's a few people.
Oh, and someone IRL, I get it. We can't say it out loud because then we make it on the list.
But honestly, we don't need to say it.
Yeah,
everyone immediately knew.
Yeah.
I didn't. I went to my real enemy, the enemy I can do something about in Nodcry. Additionally, travelers, feel free to check out our website, talesoftavat.com. Tiff curates every week a bunch of notes, graphics, and links that are really important to what we talk about. She just mentioned she's going to put all of our artifact set links down there. But this week, we have a really special artist spotlight.
Yes, we do. I love our artist spotlights for all of our episodes, and we do have them on for every single one. But this week, for this episode, we are going to be highlighting our Discord friend, Kimiko, who is a fantastic community member in our Discord who posts all sorts of art, including their own, but also is, if you want to get some good Genshin art, Kimiko is the person to go to.
The absolute GOAT, for sure.
And they are so talented. And I absolutely love the piece that we are lucky enough to be able to highlight on the site.
And if you're in our Discord server, Shades of Tavat, that we have collaboratively with the Shade Chamber podcast, you'll know that Brandon's profile picture was actually designed by Kimiko as well. It's a bee wearing Mona's hat. And we actually had the pleasure of meeting Kimiko 2 years ago at the Genshin concert in New York, and it was so wonderful getting to meet them, and they were the nicest person ever. So we're really excited to be able to spotlight them. So please check them out. We'll have their socials linked there as well, so please give them a follow. We love you. That being said, travelers, we are going to be diving next week back to the Holy Land of Mondstadt.
Oh, Lord.
As we talk all about Venti's bestie, who loves to give surprise baptisms.
And eats annoying fucking popcorn.
And eats delicious popcorn. Because nothing can be bad in Mondstadt.
And is getting his own episode before Sucrose.
Poor Sucrose.
Can I just say though, like he's probably more important lore-wise.
Oh, poor Sucrose.
And I like Sucrose. Oh, despite the fact that in a PowerPoint presentation Brandon made once, he said that everyone in Mondstadt liked me except for Sucrose. So, I will always remember that. Maybe that's why she doesn't have an episode.
Well, she's jealous.
Who wants to be jealous of me? I'm threatening that, asking people not to give me anthrax on a weekly basis.
I mean, but they're listening.
Sucrose is the main culprit you gotta watch out for.
That's why Albedo has to comb through the mail. He's like, Sucrose, is this from you?
Yeah.
I recognize your handwriting. There's a bone. But that being said, we'll be talking about Deacon Dahlia in our next episode. So definitely come with us back to Mondstadt. Until then, safe journeys, travelers. We will see you next time.
Bye, nerds.
Brother. What are you going to say? Brother? Brother Brand?